On today's Locked On Giants podcast, former NFL scout David Turner joins me to break down the Dallas Cowboys debacle. And David also has a potential solution for the Giants' run defense woes coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. Patricia China here with you. And thank you so much for making the Locked On Giants podcast your first listen of the day. And with me, as always, every Monday or every day after a Giants game is former NFL scout David Turner, president of Maverick Sports Consulting. And he's going to help me try to make sense of the New York Giants 44-20 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. Ouch. David, I guess the Giants really aren't in the Cowboys class. So much for all that, talk of the Troy Aikman's words firing them up.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, it's not like you had the Clash of the Titans where you had healthy on healthy going on and getting after it right here. We walked in limping. We didn't have our receivers, right? We didn't have all our receivers, Slayton and help me out.
Shepard
weren't there. And then bang, out of the gate. I mean, here we go. We lose Barkley, we lose Jones, and then you lose Galladay, and now you're limping around at first. Well, now you're straight, bleeding, and it becomes a mass unit. And poor Ronnie Barnes has to get up and earn his paycheck. And I feel sorry because I saw him out there with Daniel Jones. Rodney looked him right in the eyes and he turned around and gave the X's. And I know what that sign is. This guy is done. Bring the cart. Like, it's over. Let's go. And Ronnie's eyes were like, no, kid, you're done. I don't care what anybody else says on this organization. You're done. And I've been there when Ronnie's done that. Now it's been very few and very, very, very few where Ronnie's like, no matter what somebody says, you're done. And I was like, whoa, like I could see him. I could see his face, and Ronnie was concerned. So when Ronnie doesn't do that, he's a vet. He's been there over 20 something years. He's been in the business forever. So when I saw that on the TV, I was like, Daniel's shut down. We'll get into all my feelings about that. But you know what? The defense to start, they came out, they bent, but they didn't break. I mean, think about the first few drives. They were giving up yards, but then they got down in the red zone. They had some good stands. Carter got the interception, but that offense just couldn't get anything rolling, really. And once Glennon checked in with the 2 interceptions and stuff, it was just over. I mean, Dallas is too talented to give them opportunities like that. Whereas the Giants got opportunities and turnovers, like 3 in the first half, and couldn't capitalize. That really was a big tell of the tape, if you would, in this matchup. I mean, the defense did create turnovers. Bradbury dropped that one that hit him right in the gut, which could have been the 4th turnover there. And again, it really, the very next play, they come back and hit the skinny post, and they got a touchdown to Cooper, I think it was. So the defense, to me, showed up a little better yesterday, but then got worn down because the offense couldn't stay on the field, keep them rested, couldn't score, couldn't keep them in the game. And when it's like that, it's a tough day for defense because you went out there in the first half and really did a nice job. And then the second half, your offense, and you gave up 17 points in the first half, your offense had 10 points, so you were right in the game. But then that third quarter, the offense got 3 points, and then, the defense kind of broke there in the end and gave up 17 in the fourth.
Well, we're going to break all this down, but I got to start with the offense. Now, Daniel Jones proved my point yesterday, why I am not comfortable with a quarterback who can run. I know it adds a level of excitement to the game. I know it's an additional weapon, something that the defense has to account for, but dagnammit, this kid doesn't want to learn to slide. And it drives me nuts. Every time he takes off with the ball, he goes head first, shoulder first. And you can ask my husband, you can ask anybody and my colleagues who sit by me in the press box. I've been saying since the beginning of the week, or the beginning of the season rather, that Daniel Jones, unless he learns how to slide, he's going to get dinged. And sure enough, he's gotten dinged. So that said, Daniel Jones fancies himself as a tough guy, which he is. I'll give him credit. He's not a wuss. But that said, I always remember last year how he tried to talk his way back onto the field with the game against the Cardinals when he had the sprained ankle. No, I'm sorry. He had the hamstring and he wasn't able to defend himself. And I know the league protocol is not going to let him back on so quickly, but what do they do if they don't have him? I mean, Mike Glennon's got a strong arm, but he doesn't have the mobility. What do they lose if they have to play Glennon this coming week against the Rams?
Well, they lose the game. That's
Besides that.
That was simple. But no, I mean, let me step back from that and I'll get there if you give me a little road and a little rope here. A big part, as you guys all know, everybody who listens to me when I come on here with Patricia or listens to my show, I'm always about the coaches making the decision, right? And the coaching decisions. Once you learn your quarterback doesn't go down, will not slide, you have to manage that. Part of being a coach is managing people, managing the room, managing the play calls. Jason Garrett has to manage the situation. And yesterday, when Barkley goes down, you have to go, okay, my number one playmaker on offense is down. Shepard's down. Slayton's down. I have to protect the one I got left, really, which is Jones. And to run Jones in that situation was flipping awful. And yes, I did not cuss. So understand first that I love this woman, so I'm not cussing on her show. And second, that I really wanted to cuss right there. Because it's so stupid. You have one playmaker in Daniel Jones now. Yes, Galladay didn't get hurt yet. And Tony, honestly, I can't wait till we talk about him because that's exactly what I thought he would. That kid turned into what I thought he would coming out of college yesterday and why I've been pounding for 4 weeks to get him the damn ball. But that all being said, Jason Garrett, to me, made a fatal mistake in calling that quarterback run. When you have Booker, you have Penny, you have Tony, you can run a fly sweep to or with. You have other options. To dial up your quarterback, to me, is a lazy option. It's a lazy, lackadaisical option. You can run rub routes there. Like I said, you can run some Z flies. You can do other things there besides run your quarterback when he is the last guy you got going. I'm not a big quarterback sneak guy unless it's like a 3rd and 1 and you're just going up the gut, and you're just kind of leaning on the center and your running backs kind of push you. Like, cool, let's do that. Awesome. When you get them out on the perimeter, unless they're a rare athlete like a Michael Vick was, then I'm all about running the quarterback because Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham, they're rare athletes. Put them out. Don't limit your play calling. But a Daniel Jones who just moves well enough, who's decent at running, okay, he is. You need to make him into the Troy Aikman style quarterback where unless it's a really short distance, you're not running him. Just trust the rest of it. We talked about it last week. Does he have too many weapons? Well, he's not trusting the weapons around him. Okay. And I'm talking about Jason Garrett's not trusting the weapons around him. You got Penny, you got Booker, you can run the ball, and then you choose to run the quarterback. Like, what the hell is going on with that?
Well, let me ask you this. Was that a call or did Jones maybe decide to keep it himself and run?
No, that was a call because there was play fake and then he rolled out to the other side. So it was a 100% designed quarterback rollout. They thought they were going to catch Dallas crashing down to get the running back. And again, Jones had an open lane. I'm not saying it wasn't a good play call, But in that situation, when you already lost Barkley for the game, you're out Shepard and you're out Slayton, and you know that you're out these guys, you have to protect the quarterback with the play calling. You have to. And why? Well, look why. Because as soon as you don't, you got Glennon in the game and you get spanked by a divisional opponent and you lose the game. Not only lose it, but you lose it by 24 points and handily. And again, Joe Judge needs to take control of the offensive calls in this situation. Go over to Jason and say, hey, listen, without Barkley, you can't be running the quarterback. I mean, that's not invading the offensive coordinator's territory. When you're the head coach, you walk over and say, listen, I can't have you running the quarterback now without Barkley because, if we lose him, we really have no playmakers. And Jason, being a head coach, should know this and just say, well, those plays are off my card right now. Like, unless I absolutely need one, I'm taking him out. I mean, he's got a huge play card in front of him with over 100 dang plays on it. The quarterback runs might be 5, might be 10. Take those out. You still have a 90 freaking play card. You got plenty of plays to run outside dialing up your quarterback to run the ball. And if those other plays on your play card aren't ones that you can go to in a pressure situation in a 3rd and 1 or two down at the goal line and make it, then you have the wrong plays on your play card.
Hey, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's show. But first, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings you your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part is there's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Now, I just wondered because, I know last week Joe Judge was asked if Daniel has autonomy to change plays. And I just wondered if maybe he audibilized it and maybe that wasn't what Jason initially called. I don't know. I mean, based on the personnel, it's certainly plausible that that was the play that was called. But the bottom line is Daniel Jones has got to learn how to slide. It just drives me nuts when I see him lower his shoulder, lower his head. I didn't want to be right, but I kept saying it. I kept saying that he's going to get dinged. He's going to get a concussion or worse. And hopefully this concussion he has, hopefully it's not something serious. He gets through the protocol quickly. I don't know if he's going to play Sunday against the Rams, but you just can't have this. And, look, a lot of people, again, they say, oh, Daniel Jones can run. He's athletic. Well, you know what? I'd rather have Eli Manning's Iron Man streak and have a statue back there and know that that guy's going to be in there every week than to have, a running quarterback. I have never, ever been a fan of running quarterbacks, and I still am not. But anyway, I want to talk about the offensive line. We've got to talk about this. Now, I found it curious that Andrew Thomas was active with the foot injury, but they kept him in an emergency situation. I didn't quite understand that because if the guy wasn't well enough to play and he didn't play any snaps in the game, why not devote that to, say, a cornerback situation, which we'll talk about the defense later on. But I thought the corners had some issues there with what they were doing. But the offensive line, bottom line, Nate Solder moved to left tackle, had a rough go of it. They had another left guard. They kept alternating. I think they put Matt Skura to start and then Wes Martin in the second half, which to me, when Joe Judge says, oh, we're going to play them all, I'm sorry, if you've got to rotate guys, then that means you don't know who your best guy is and you're still trying to find that out. And what are you doing in practice if you still don't know who your best guy is? I mean, what were your thoughts on the offensive line?
They're the same they've been all year.
Come on, Andrew, do you like what Andrew Thomas has been doing?
12 more games. But they didn't do enough in the offseason to address the problems. And now they're sitting in this situation. But like you said, if you don't know who your starters are at any position, but at offensive line going into a game, who your best 5 are going into the game that are healthy enough to play, what the hell are you doing? Like, seriously. And again, I know Dave's not quiet about this because I've been in the rooms where I've heard him, so I'm pretty sure Dave told him who the best 5 are. Now it's up to them to play them. and it's up to them to do it. And that was the thing that Ernie Accorsi taught me early in my career. The biggest frustration for us personnel guys is that we don't control the decisions on Sundays. We don't control the cards, who plays, who doesn't play. We don't control, who gets on the field, the play calling. And we can tell them all week long, our analytics say this, our reports say this, our eyes are telling us this, our guts are saying this, our history, our experience of, Dave, 40 flipping years. It says this. And if they don't listen, they don't listen. Like, I literally presented a report to the coaching staff when I was at the Giants as a young scout and said to them, every time we motion, we're a yard and a half less because our motions are dictating what our play call is. And I broke down all the motions, what it would equal, blah, 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 detailed report, 15 pages, presented it, gave it to the coaches. Before I left the room, as I left the room, I should say, I heard the guy who's responsible for motions. Oh, that just means we need to motion more. We're not distracting them enough. We're too predictable. I was like, are you kidding me? No, because when we just straight up line up and run the ball or do our play, whatever the play is without a motion, we're at 5.6 yards a freaking play. But when we weren't, we were like 3.9 or something. And I'm just like, just don't motion as much. That was my whole presentation. But the guy who was in charge of motioning defended the motions. And that's what was frustrating. And that's what's frustrating. So when you talk about the offensive line and not knowing who's playing, or Thomas sitting on the sidelines, you might not know. That foot might have been bad and they needed to rest him, right? But if he was forced into action, he would have survived a game and not hurt the foot worse. You don't want to put him out against Gregory like that, because Gregory's a power rusher. And if you can't anchor, I mean, you saw Soldier getting pushed all day into, the laps of the quarterbacks. And if you got a bad foot, that's a hard day. I mean, if you had a speed rusher where you can maybe cut them and you can, work them upfield, that's one thing. But when you got a power rusher coming into your chest, I mean, that's going to be a hard day on that foot. And then, you got to run the ball to win this game. So you got to come off and move a guy like Gregory play after play. That's really hard. So I can kind of understand that decision where it was like, okay, he's well enough to play, but we know if we play him, we're worse off because that injury is going to really limit him today. But the next guy up isn't as good as him as he is hurt, right? So, we're not going to pull Jackson off the practice squad and bring him up because Jackson's not as good as Thomas is hurt. So let's try this and get through the game and see if we don't even need to call him up. And, it is what it is. You limped in, like I said, you limped into the game hurt with multiple people and you hung with them for a half, and you some of the coaching decisions and game management stuff's where I think the coaches failed the team again and why they lost this game so bad.
Yeah. Now, a couple things I want to talk about with the offense before we flip to the defense. Kyle Rudolph, one target. I mean, I don't understand why they invested in him. They're not getting this guy in the red zone. I don't get that. Evan Ingram had 4, caught all 4, by the way. And then Kadarius Toney. I know you
don't even start defending Ingram. I'm not.
I know how you feel. I am not defending him. I know you want to talk about Kadarius Toney, but first I want to ask you about Rudolph and why it's been so hard for Jason to get him in the offense, especially in the red zone where he's supposed to be like this savior. And then I want to ask you about Toney because you were very high on him. So let's start with Rudolph.
Again, like I said last week, I would trade or get rid of Evan Ingram because Jason is not using Rudolph. And it's absolutely insane to me. They're paying Rudolph. They went and got him this, again, he wants to run 12 personnel. Great. Here's your 12 personnel grouping. We got you this, like you said, third down, red zone, mismatch, sure-handed receiver. I was super excited about Rudolph coming into the year. I mean, go back and listen to those podcasts that we did early in training camp. And then also when they did the cuts, I was excited about Rudolph. I'm still excited about Rudolph, but Jason is underutilizing Rudolph and it makes no sense to me. And it's absolutely mind boggling that Jason hasn't gone to his play card and put more targets on it, because I think the man's every time the man's targeted this year, he's caught the ball. He might have missed one. But again, he's really a sure-handed man that can catch the ball. He does things after the catch with the ball. But on third downs and goal line red zone situations, like you said, he knows how to get open. He fights to get open, and he can catch the ball in a crowd. He can catch the contested balls. He's really, really good at it, like fantastic at it. So for them not to be dialing him up, again, is a coach's decision, play calling decision, mismatch, and it's terrible. It's absolutely a terrible thing to have a man like that in your arsenal and not be utilizing him. That's ridiculous. So, I can't defend that at all. And I'll say, Evan yesterday, Ingram, made a couple catches. He made one wow catch where I was like, whoa. And then I thought it was Tony catching it because it was 88 and in 89 had been going off. So I was like, ooh, Tony caught another one. Then I saw it was Ingram. I'm like, yeah. I was like, because honestly, it's like, okay, Ingram, you made one catch. You're going to go talk about that all day, and then they're going to want you to do that catch every week. And that was the one, that was the 1 quarter catch. You'll make 4 of those a year. And that's why we keep you, is for those 4.
Let's talk Tony. I know
how
much you love talking about Evan, but let's talk Tony.
Tony was he's everything we thought he was. Look at what he did yesterday. 10 receptions, 189 yards. He made some fantastic target moves. He was, he showed he can get loose in a phone booth, where people just, close quarter quickness is ridiculous. Stop and start and rego and his routes. Everything was working. And then he twisted his ankle, taped it up, came back, went back out there, played his ass off yesterday up until he lost his cool. Mm-hmm. Now that was completely ridiculous for 3 reasons. A, you should know better. You're the only, I'm sorry, I know you're a rookie, but here's the deal. You're the only playmaker on the offense right now. You lose your cool in that situation and got thrown out of the game. Now that offense has no chance of coming back. None. B, your teammates didn't pull you off. Ingram was right there jumping on the Dallas Cowboy guy, talking trash and building it up instead of pulling Tony out of there. Saying, come on, man, we got to win this game. Come on. Hey, let it go. We'll get him on the field. Come on. No, it was Ingram jumped in there and started talking trash right alongside Tony, firing him up, and then boom, there comes the punch. And third, Joe Judge didn't show his ass up into that huddle until after some of the other coaches were out there. Now, last night, I don't know if you watched the Bills game last night, but I watched the nightcap. A similar scrimmage busts out on the field. And guess who's in the middle? The head coach for the Buffalo Bills. He's in the middle. He's pulling the opposite players off. The opposite player turns around, almost looks like he's going to hit him, and he jumps up in his face. No, this is it. We're not fighting, and he's up in there, and he's throwing it. Here's a situation where Joe Judge can run out on the field and set the tone for his team, like get back to the huddle, knock it off, and he shows up after staffers are already out there. Like, no, you got to be – I'm sorry. I believe in leaders. If you're going to be a true leader, you're the first one off the freaking bus. You're the first one to jump into the mix. You want leadership from your players, then exhume it yourself. You jump into that skirmish and you break it up. You're a big guy. You're not like me. I'm 5'4" and 210 pounds, but I'm working on it. And you got to jump in there. I would jump in there, and I don't know any better. I would definitely jump in there, and I'd probably get kicked or hit or something. But guess what? At least I was in the mix, and I was trying to break it up. Joe Judge doesn't show up till late in the party, and then he really just, all right, and then he walks off. I'm getting tired of this. Like, I was a huge Joe Judge fan coming into the season. I was excited, but I'm getting tired of this lack of passion and control that he is not showing over his team. And then, again, you're not managing your offensive coordinator, telling him you can't run the quarterback. You're not managing the team because in that skirmish, you didn't go jump into it and say, hey, knock it off. get back to the huddle. We got a game to win. So what are you managing right now?
New head coach. I mean, still relatively a young head coach. He's learning as he goes along. I mean, that's the only thing.
He's not a young guy.
I mean, this is only his second season as a head coach. And it's, I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to, play devil's advocate here, but
sorry, I'm not buying
but
it.
I do agree with you about, I do agree with you about, oh, we got to coach better. It's like the same spiel every week. It's like, how about a little, although he did show some passion when he said about Tony that his actions were not acceptable and would not be tolerated. So he does pick and choose where he does this, but sometimes
he showed some passion. What, in the press conference?
A little bit, but
in the press conference. Oh,
yeah, but
in a secured environment where nobody's going to be attacking him. In a press conference, he handled that.
Well, I don't know.
Well.
I'm not on the sideline, so to be fair. But what I'm saying is I can, look, Joe always says that he's going to protect the franchise and keep stuff in house wherever possible, and I get that. I understand that, because you don't want, like when McAdoo was here. Remember how McAdoo used to constantly throw guys under the bus, and it just wore on the players. So I kind of understand where Joe's coming from. That said, I think you've got to pick and choose when you decide to let it loose, so to speak. And, it's like, you're not a robot, man. Show some emotion. That's how I feel at any rate. But
when you're winning, when you got rings on your finger, you can be reserved. You can chill. Honest to God, when you're winning, you can chill. Yeah. And you can be, and again, but in that situation with those players going at it, and with this team being 1-4, that was an opportunity to inject yourself into the leadership of the game and go out there and pull your players off and get to Tony and Ingram before something happened and say, guys, knock it off. I'm here. I'm the big dog. I'm here. And I'm telling you, knock it off. Get back in the huddle. Because the referee's not going to throw a flag for you coming off the sidelines, because you're the head coach and you're breaking something up.
Well, he did pull Tony off, though, and he did send him to the locker room. But, maybe it was after the fact. I don't know.
Too late. So. That's all. It was just too late. And again, I agree about protecting the franchise. I agree that you don't throw players under the bus. I agree. That's 100%. I agree. But in that situation, jumping into the skirmish to break it up, when you're down all these players, and if you lose Tony or Ingram, you're down another playmaker. Like, you have to assess that quickly and do it. And last night, the Bills coach did that. He assessed it quickly, and he's like, listen, I got to jump in here and just get my guys cooled and get the other guys off my sideline so this doesn't turn into something. Like, I just have to.
Good point.
And that's the only thing I'm saying here.
Okay.
When last week we were talking about Joe Judge, I was kind of like a vanilla blah, I'm just seeing something with Joe right now where I'm not seeing a true passion, and they're 1-4. When you're 1-4, you have to, in my opinion, a head coach has to exude the confidence to get better and be the leader. Okay. And right now I'm not getting that from Joe Judge.
Hey, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's show. But first, let me tell you about Built Bar. It's a healthy, low carb, low sugar, and high protein treat that will satisfy your sweet tooth. Choose from 9 amazing flavors, plus the occasional limited time offering available in nut and nut-free variety. Visit BuiltBar.com and use our special promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your first order. Again, that's LOCKED15, LOCKED15 at BuiltBar.com for 15% off your first order. All right, David, let's talk about the defense, because there's a lot to talk about there. What is going on with this run defense? Is it just they missed Blake Martinez and Dalvin Tomlinson, who I still say, that was a big loss for them, Dalvin Tomlinson, but to lose Blake Martinez on top of it, I think was just like the death blow, if you will. That run defense right now can't stop anything. What are you seeing when you look at that group?
The edges are soft. Like, look at where they attacked all night. It wasn't
outside zone.
Yeah, it wasn't downhill. It wasn't powers. It wasn't between the tackles. They stretched this defense left. They stretched it right. I text you early in the game. If they don't sew up these corners on this defense, it's going to be a long day. And it was a long day. I think Dallas ran for 201 yards yesterday with a 5.2 average. Yes, they only gave up one rushing touchdown, but still, I mean, Graham needs to go back to the lab and figure this out. And he's got to get those safeties involved on those outside zones. Those safeties are not coming downhill fast enough and helping the outside linebackers right now. And I know he's trying to prevent doing that, because as soon as you start asking your safeties to fly up into the box, it really opens your passing, your back end to double moves and play action. And then the safeties are out of position and coverage. And I get that. Like, I'm not a dummy. I understand what he's trying to not do. He doesn't want to create another hole, right, for someone to take advantage of. But that all being said, I mean, this run defense, I think they gave up, 120 to Kamara last week. They gave up 110 to Zeke this week. Plus Pollard got another 75 late in the game. So, for me, you really have to bring those safeties into the mix, kind of like what Seattle does with Adams. When they bring Adams down into the box on rundowns and then they blitz him a lot. He needs to maybe look at some stuff that they're doing with Adams up there in Seattle and play Peppers similarly, because Peppers is a playmaker when you ask him to be. And I don't think right now the role Peppers is playing is really the playmaking role that he should be dialed up to play for this defense. Agreed. That all being said, yeah, we said it. Remember, I think you're the one who said it, the third preseason game when they were running on the edges a lot, and you were like, "What's going on?" They look kind of soft out there. I believe you're the one who brought that up in the third preseason game, and it's still a problem today. 5 games into the season, it's still a problem. They haven't fixed it. And Graham, again, a guy I was really high on coming into the season, I really got excited about, has to manage his roster and has to figure it out. That's their job. Their job is to figure this out. And 5 games in now, giving up over 100 yards rushing to elite running backs. Don't get me wrong, Kamara and Elliott are elite running backs. But that being said, you still have to figure it out and stop them. That's your job.
Well, you mentioned you bring the safeties up, but then we saw James Bradbury on that CeeDee Lamb touchdown, no safety help whatsoever. So, was that just a busted coverage, or did they bring the safeties up at that point and just say, okay, you know what, James, you're our shutdown guy, who, by the way, he hasn't looked like a shutdown guy all year. Is it like a pick your poison type of deal with them?
Defensive play calling is absolutely pick your poison. Someone's going to be open. You just got to get to the quarterback before you can find them. I mean, that's every play. I mean, this is gifted athletes. This is the NFL, right? I mean, Urban Meyer said it the best, that little coward. He just said that. He was like, oh, it's like playing Alabama every week. No, did you really think that it was going to be like playing, Kansas every week in the NFL? Like, come on, bro. Like, you don't even know where you're at. We don't even need to get into that subject because I'll go off on him like you have nobody's business. But, for me, it's like, these guys get paid to play, and they're very good, gifted athletes. So someone's going to always be open. That touchdown situation to Lamb, I mean, he hit him with just a straight go route. And Bradbury looked like at first under 15 yards, he thought he was going to break. So he was just kind of sitting back. And then all of a sudden, Lamb just kept running and pulled away from him. And I don't think that was a busted coverage. I think Bradbury just played it wrong. And then it happens. I mean, shoot, stuff like that happens. It happens. But where Bradbury could have redeemed himself is when he read it right and he jumped that route and that ball hit him right in the chest. I mean, as my high school coach would have said, if that was an arrow, you'd have been dead, kid. Because it went right to the heart. So you gotta squeeze out one and bring it in, and then redeem yourself for giving up a touchdown and get that turnover and stop that drive for them right there. That's the best you can do as a corner. You got to have short memories and make the most of every situation as they come up. And that was a situation he lost on it. Again, if you're going to roll the safeties up and help out your run defense, your corners are going to be on islands, and they just have to have good technique, and they have to just be out there with short memories. They're going to get beat. It's going to happen. Plain and simple. It's going to happen. And you're going up against Rams this week. You're going to try it. It's going to happen. Okay. That being said, don't get beat for touchdowns. Get beat for 10 yards. Get beat for 12, maybe 15. But don't get beat for touchdowns. If you're going to give up a touchdown, just create the pass interference, give up the yardage, and keep your defense alive. But if you don't show up this run defense with the games they have coming up, I mean, this 1-4 team can wind up 1-7 or 1-9 really easy.
Yikes. That means we'll have a lot of interesting Mondays to talk about this stuff. But now I want to stay on the run defense, though, because you said we both agree that they're soft on the edges. So, O'Shane Ximenez, run defense has always been his issue, if you will. I'm kind of surprised to see that Lorenzo Carter has been having issues with the run defense, and Ojulari, I can kind of give him a little bit of a pass because he's a rookie and he's going to get better, I think, at it. But, the bottom line is, how much, though, again, is not having a Blake Martinez back there or the speed in that inside linebacker group now to go sideline to sideline to help those guys out.
Yes and no. I'm going to go yes and no. I'll give you the no first, and then I'll give you the yes. Okay. So when you're an edge player, and you're coming off and you're going to set the edge, like our outside linebackers and our defensive ends need to be, especially on a stretch run. A stretch run, you're in a 3-4 defense. You're going to stretch. You say the tackles are taking the outside linebackers, the guards are going to take the 4 techniques. 4-6, whatever they're lined up. And then your linebackers usually fill, right? And they fill in the gaps in between there. In this situation, we're not bringing that tackle upfield. We're not creating and changing the line of scrimmage. We're not in the backfield. We're being too reactive. We're letting them get into our chests and push us to the sidelines versus us push them into the backfield and causing the running back to turn into our help. So I think the Blake Martinez and the speed disguised our weak edges because they would get to those sideline tackles so efficiently and work themselves through traffic or over the top of it really well, and then they'd make a tackle. But the reality is you need to be stouter and create a stronger edge and push up field and change the line of scrimmage. Yesterday, J.J. Watt here in Arizona did it really wonderfully a couple times where he would penetrate and cause the pools and the stuff that the Niners were trying to do, disrupting it in the backfield so that timing and then the running back was one-on-one with his outside linebacker. If our D-line and our outside linebackers penetrated better in these outside zones and push the lineman into the backfield, causing the running back to turn into the help, you wouldn't need the speed inside to get to the sideline. So therefore, the yes part is yes, you're right. The speed is limiting our ability to stop the outside zones because the way we're playing it up front is spill it to the outside and let the linebackers get there. What they need to do is set the edge firmer, turn it into the less athletic linebackers that we have currently, and let them clean it up inside. So it's just a technique coaching style, whereas you need to be firmer on the edges right now because you don't have the linebacker speed that you typically have. So you can't play the technique where you spill it to the outside and let them chase it down. You have to play the technique, set firm edges, penetrate, create a different line of scrimmage behind the line of scrimmage, disrupt the timing of the blockings and everything. And then that will allow your linebackers that are a little less athletic than what you're used to get there and make the play.
Whew.
I hope that made sense.
No, it does make sense, but it's like, like you said, now what they had before disguised or covered up for what they lack. And what they lack right now are guys that can set the edge, which is a problem, which, you got Lorenzo Carter, who's going into who's in his contract year, Ximenez. I don't know how much missing last year hurt him, but like I said, his run defense was never his strength. Ojulari, I think, is going to be okay in time, but you just they don't have any other options as I see it. I mean, do you maybe bring Carter Coughlin down? Can he hold the edge? I'm not so sure he can.
No, Carter Coughlin is not an edge guy.
Yeah.
But again, this is why you bring your safeties down, because now you have an extra guy for the offensive block. And if Peppers, let's just say Peppers is in the box, that causes a mismatch. It gives you the run defense the advantage because you got the extra guy they have to block and account for. And then you can set an edge. You can knife through, make plays. You can utilize a guy like Peppers and his athletic ability and playmaking ability to blitz and do things. Again, like what they're doing with Jamal Adams up in Seattle. So that type of style right now, it's going to hurt your pass defense and what you're going to do on the back end, and your corners are going to be on islands. I get it. But it will sew up and shore up this run defense, which hopefully will help you get out of some of these, creating longer third downs where then you back them out and you let them cover on third down. But first and second down, he might have to play in the box. So you create the longer third down situations. And by creating longer third down situations, statistically, you're going to be off the field more often than not. So it's just, again, when you're in this type of situation, it's not ideal, but it's a fix. It's not one that you want to use to fix it, but it's one that you need to use to fix it. Because if you're giving your defense a lot of 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 4s to defend, they're going to be on the field for longer and longer drives.
A lot of fixing that still needs to be done, obviously, and guys need to play better, of course. It's just an overall effort. The coaching decisions, which I know you said, you texted me and you said the coaching, man, you were I could tell you were at the boiling point with the coaching decisions. I don't know if some of those were included the defense or if it was just reserved for Jason Garrett on the offense, but still a long, long way for this Giants team to go. And like you said, the schedule doesn't get any easier. They've got the Rams coming up, the Panthers are coming up, and then they have that real murderer's row with, the Bucks and the Chiefs, even though the Chiefs, I think, are 2-3 now, but still a very good and potent team. And I don't know how they're going to get through this schedule. I mean, it's a case of, it reminds me of last year when they knocked off the Seahawks. Everybody thought, oh, wow, and that was like their Super Bowl. And so far, knocking off the Saints has been like their Super Bowl, and they haven't been able to really follow up and build on that. So, gosh, I hope they do. I mean, because otherwise we're going to have a long, long year ahead. So.
Well, it's going to be a long year if they don't, again, Joe Judge, in my opinion, needs to exhilarate a little bit more. I'm missing the word here, so I'm sure one of your viewers.
Passion.
He needs to exude.
Emotion.
Exude. That's it. Exude more leadership. In my opinion, you gotta put it out there. You gotta say this isn't good enough. And you don't have to call a player out to do that. But what you got to do is show it a little bit more, like you said, with emotions, with passion, and bring it to the table to get it out there. I know he comes from the Belichick and Saban model where they don't show much. They're very buttoned up guys. But those, again, if you go back early in Belichick's career, watch him on the sidelines when he was a Giants assistant and even in Cleveland when he was a Cleveland head coach, he showed some emotion as a young coach. And, he grew into this stoic figure that we see now. Same with, look at Nick Saban at LSU or at Michigan State or where he has been, right? And he's exhumed some, when he was a young man, he put some passion out there. And even a few years ago when Lane Kiffin wasn't running the football, he exhumed a lot of passion to Lane Kiffin and told him run the effing football. That's what they do at Alabama. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of leadership that I'm looking for from Joe Judge, is to go to Jason Garrett and be like, listen, dude, you can't run the quarterback. I don't want that on the damn play card. You got enough weapons. You got all these people to make plays. Quarterbacks are not running the ball anymore. If you look at me, if you can't make that happen for me, you're not my offensive coordinator. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Go to your defensive coordinator. If you can't play Peppers in the box or figure out how to get a safety on the edges, then I'll get somebody else to call defenses because I'm at my wit's end. We're 1-4. We have, like you said, a murderous row of games coming up. I don't want to be at 1-7. Okay.
That would not be
I want to be at 4-4. I want to be at 4-4. If we're not 4-4 in the next 3 games, big changes are coming.
I think big changes are coming regardless, because, this is not, and I go back, just one final point about Joe. And, I think the world of Joe. I think he's a bright, young, up and coming head coach. But when I go back, and they made this point on the broadcast yesterday, when I go back and they say Joe Judge extended the preseason into the regular season, that irks me to no end. It's like you had the same amount of time as everybody else to figure things out, and you have to extend the preseason into the regular season when the games start to count, and you had 3 winnable games to start your schedule. That bothers me to no end. And it goes back to the decision to not play the starters until the 3rd preseason game. And then, oh gosh, all of a sudden they're like, oh wow, we've got this deficiency and this deficiency, that they could have figured that out, had they maybe played these guys earlier. I guarantee you that changes next year. You don't see Joe Judge doing that again. I guarantee that.
If Joe Judge is the coach next year,
he will be. He'll be the coach. I don't know if Dave will be back. I mean, Dave, I think, will probably fall on the sword, so to speak, but Joe will be back. I don't see them starting over again.
Well, here's the thing. I know Tish and Mara are not happy right now. And when they're both unhappy,
no one's safe.
No one's safe. I've been in the building. I know. Okay. Now, when Tish is upset and Mara's okay, and Mara's upset and Tish is okay, like the two of them will calm each other down a little bit. But when they're both unhappy,
it gets ugly.
It does. It's a bloodbath. And here's again, you're 1-4. Okay. You're 0-2 in your division. If you don't get to 4-4 with 9 games to go, I can't say this coach is safe. If you're 1-7 at the halfway mark, I can't say he's safe. And with Daniel Jones more than likely sitting this week out, and like you said, they're going up against the Rams,
Carolina. Right? Well, they got the Rams first, and then I think Carolina.
Right.
And then I believe they start that murderer's row not shortly thereafter.
You got going into your bye week, right? You got Rams, Carolina, Kansas City, Vegas.
And then you got the Bucks out of the bye.
And then right out of the bye, you got the Bucks, Philly, Miami, Chargers. And the Chargers are playing pretty well out of their skulls right now.
Yeah.
So
you maybe can steal one against Philly. You might be able to hold your own against Miami, but
I'm just looking going into the bye week with the next 4 games. All right. If you win the next 4, right? If you win the next 4,
which is a tall order.
You're 5-4 going into the rest of the season, right? You're 5-4. So you're on the plus side. And then again, you got the murderous row coming. But if you don't get through the Rams, Carolina, Kansas City, and Vegas, a minimum 3-1, a minimum 3-1 going into your bye week 4-5. I don't know if anybody's safe in that bye week, being frank, because here's the deal. If you don't have Daniel Jones more than likely versus the Rams, Barkley's ankle doesn't look like he's going to be, even if he's playing 100%.
He's not playing next week. I'd be stunned if he's in the lineup next week.
I'm with you too on that. I was just trying to be positive. and Tony with that punch might be suspended.
No, I don't think he's going to be suspended. I saw something that he's not going to draw a suspension, but a fine. I think ESPN had that report. So they might catch a break there.
We'll see what the NFL does. Okay,
True.
We'll see. But if let's just say you have Tony, but you're out Barkley and Jones, that Rams game is going to be extremely hard to win. The Carolina game is extremely hard to win. Those guys, they play hard. Yesterday against the Eagles, had some miscues, but that has not been their case all year. They've been hitting on a lot of buttons, dropping 2 in a row. They're going to be hungry by that time to win again. Kansas City, they're not the Kansas City of old. That defense is having a hard time stopping anybody. But at the end of the day, that offense is still good. We saw not against the Bills what they did, but 2 weeks ago, I mean, shoot, fantasy football went crazy with Tyreek Hill having 4 touchdowns or whatever it was. And he's, he was off the chain, off the board. So they are still very, very lethal. Now, the Vegas started hot and they've cooled off recently. They've really cooled off a lot. So you got 3 very hard games and 1 winnable game, I think, in this stretch right here. And you're going to probably be without your quarterback for one of them, and Barkley maybe for all 4 of them going into the bye week. So you have a very hard card to come out of this on the positive side going into the bye week. But as coaches, as professionals, you have to figure a way out. You have to win these ball games, because going into your week 10 bye, if you are 1-8, that's the reality right now. They could be 1-8 going into the bye week. Nobody is safe.
Wow. I don't even want to think about that. I really don't. Because God help my mentions and my letters to the editor and all that stuff. Oh, man. I mean, what do you say to people? You just don't. But hey, fingers crossed they get it figured out. I mean, I know I try to be optimistic. I really do. I try to be optimistic, but wow, this is going to be tough. This is going to be tough.
And again, I go back. They blew the Denver game. They blew
the first 3 games that were winnable because they extended their arm preseason. That's what irks me more than anything right now, is that you didn't have your team really set and ready to go because you decided, well, they got enough work in practice, so we're not going to play them in the preseason game. When you've admitted that you cannot simulate the game speed in practice. I never got that. I still don't understand it. If you can explain it to me, maybe I'm missing something.
No, I was with you. I don't believe in it. I believe you play football. The players play football, get them on the field and play football. Warren Sapp always said it. They don't pay me to play the game on Sundays. They pay me to practice and lift weights. Because if they have to pay you to play the game, you're in the wrong business. He loved playing the game. He would line it up and get after it. But yeah, the business side, I got to lift weights. I got to show up on time. I got to go to meetings. I got to be underweight. These are the things I have to do to be fortunate to play the game on Sunday. Yep. And he wanted to play the game on Sunday so bad, he did it. And he got paid really good to do it. But he knew in his mental mindset was they pay me to prepare to play the game.
Yeah.
Playing the game, nobody has to pay me to play the game. Throw a ball out in the freaking lawn. I'm playing a game. And Ray Lewis, all the great ones. Randy Moss, all the great ones are that way. You don't have to pay me to play. I want to play the game. I'll go find a park game and go play. Like, that's the mentality. Right now, the Giants don't have that mentality. Like, dude, let's go have some fun and play the game. And during the week, do the work to get ready to play the game. Like, that's the work. Sundays are fun. Like, Sundays should be fun. Go out there and have fun and just play with reckless abandonment and hit people. And, that's fun. We don't all get to do it anymore. We're all beat up old men and we can't play anymore. But trust me, you roll that ball out, there's some park, Thanksgiving leftover bowls. There's a lot of old men playing the game because they love the game. These guys get paid to play the game and coach the game. But you got to go to work and right now, if I'm Joe Judge and I'm on my coaching staff, it's about 11 o'clock. We've gotten the players through their meetings. We're about to go to coaches' meetings and talk about some stuff. He's got to figure a way.
Yep.
To figure that to get this team on the right side. And he's got 4 games right now to do it. He's got that's. I know you say 1 game at a time, but you really have a 4-game season right now.
Yeah. Yep. Well said. Well, my friend, as always, this was a fun conversation, even though it wasn't a fun game to watch. So a lot of great stuff, as always, from you. So appreciate you. We'll talk again as we always do, Giant fans, want to thank you for tuning in, making us your first listen of the day. I know we came to you a little later than usual today, but I hope you thought it was well worth it. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We got Twitter Tuesday. And then, of course, Thursday, we've got the crossover show. And I'll see what I can put together for you on Wednesday and Friday, still kind of figuring that all out. So for David Turner, I am Patricia Traina. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Locked On Giants podcast.